Hello and welcome to Blockleaders.io with me, Gillian Gottsell. Today I'm joined by Andrew Hamilton, CEO of JPB Liberty, and also Dr. Brian Bishko, who's the VP of Public Affairs of the same company. Now, the company JBP, which is so hard to say together, Liberty, is a law firm based out of Australia and Israel, and you're preparing to launch a class action lawsuit against tech giants Google, Twitter, and Facebook over the banning of the crypto ads in 2018. Wow. So maybe I'll start with you, Andrew.
Slightly, JPB Liberty is a litigation funding firm.
Okay.
In Australia, law firms can't take a share of damages, but litigation funding firms can. There's a separation to preserve independence of clients.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, and JPB stands for John Perry Barlow. And so the apologies for why it's hard to say is...
That's someone's name.
Well, yes, John Perry Barlow was the founder of the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, created the Internet Declaration of Independence back in the 90s. So he was the songwriter for the Grateful Dead, but he's quite an important person in the space of online internet and freedom.
I'm going to research him. Apologies that I didn't know. I will no longer complain about how hard it is to say JPB. Wow. Okay, that's very interesting. So who had come up with this idea to raise the funds to take this class?
So my background, I've been a lawyer for a long time in the tech space. My early career I spent at Telstra, the Australian big telco, doing competition law and regulatory law. And I was actually, in the early 90s, in charge of the standard contracts that Telstra had with all its corporate and government customers. And I was responsible for competition law review. And I was very aware at the time, and most lawyers in Australia were, that where you have customers that are also potentially competitors, you have to be very careful about any clause that restricts supply of services. So fast forward, 2 decades, I moved to Israel in 2008, around the time of the Bitcoin white paper coming out. So I missed that, even though I have a computer science degree as well as a law degree. So my background is half geek, half lawyer, but the lawyer has been my main career. And so then I got involved in crypto in early 2017. And then, I was mining Ethereum on graphics cards on my balcony and things like that. And then I got a bit involved in the Steam social media blockchain network. And then when Facebook banned cryptocurrency ads on the 30th of January 2018, I immediately felt, my competition law antenna popped up and said, wow, this is anti-competitive. You can't do that. Crypto's your competitors. I knew because Web 3.0, wasn't just money. It was the whole ecosystem of decentralized applications and everything. They're the competitors of Facebook and Google, and Hive and Steam. It's called Hive now. Steam was, a direct competitor of Facebook. And so I actually said, I posted on LinkedIn, I think this is a cartel. And so then I decided to do some research and check the law again, because I hadn't looked at it in much detail for probably 15 years. And I found, yes, indeed, the law really hadn't changed. And it was a breach of Australia's competition law. It was a breach of the cartel provisions of Australia's competition law, and a very serious breach indeed. So after I did write to the regulator, but they didn't pay me any attention. So I figured,
probably didn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, they didn't probably understand, and I can't blame them. It is a brand new area. So I thought, well, look, this has caused immense damage. The market's dropped 53% in the week after Facebook banned the ads, and another 30% after Google banned the ads in the next week, and 25% after Twitter. So there's huge losses. And then on top of that, all the cryptocurrency businesses and projects that were crushed by this. I thought this is an opportunity for a class action. And I had experience running class actions in the Federal Court of Australia before, so I knew how to do that as well.
I was going to ask you that. So you have done these class actions before?
Yes, I have
successfully.
I've done one class action before. It wasn't successful because the people funding it pulled out, but it was successful in the initial stages before the funding got pulled. And so that was one of my lessons also was, control your own funding. So I decided to set up a litigation funding firm specifically for this purpose, to run this case, although other cases are possible in the future, and started, put together myself the sign-up form, the website, the agreements, the legal agreement, which is the litigation funding agreement, everything. I put it all together myself and started trying to get people to sign up, which was slow at first. When I first started this, people said I was absolutely mad because 2.5 years ago, people weren't aware of how problematic Google and Facebook are. And crypto was just considered for mad people. And, and because of the very bad ban, everyone thought everyone in crypto was a scammer because Facebook had said so. And Facebook, whatever Facebook said must be true before people realized it wasn't. It was slow going at first, but the legal case was very strong from the beginning. And, gradually we've got support. When Facebook came out with Libra a year ago, we put out a press release and people started going, maybe crypto isn't all so bad. Facebook's into it. And then we put out a press release. Yeah, they banned all their competitors right at the same time that they were starting to work on their own project. Appalling conduct. So we've started to get traction. Now we've got quite a lot of traction. A year ago, we've still been working on the case. We've now got from about a year, we've had a major law firm in Australia and a Queen's Counsel, or they're called Senior Counsel. Well, you're in Irish, so we don't do the Queen's stuff. It's Senior Counsel. It's the same as the Queen's Counsel in Australia, working predominantly off the clock for us on developing this case. And I'm doing a lot of the legal work myself as well. Of
course. So can I just ask, Brian, what's your role in this then?
Sorry.
So what happened was Andrew and I we've been friends for a while, and he told me about this, almost 2 years ago, soon after he came up with it. And after a few months of thinking he was nuts, I said, let's do a YouTube video, because I've got a YouTube channel and I'm pretty good on the social medias. So we did that one video, and it was during that video that he converted me, and I started to see, I had 0.02 of a Bitcoin that I had got off a faucet back in the beginning. And I understood, I'm got a PhD in physics. I understood crypto and but I hadn't seen the breadth of what it was going to become, or what it is becoming. And then he explained the legals to me, and I thought, this is a project I want to help. So I went from journalist into activist.
Okay.
And doing because basically getting people past this block of saying all of crypto's a scam and all of, which is just nonsense. And seeing also that it's not just money. It's not just Bitcoin and sending money from one place to another. There's all this other technologies that are built off it. That's what I've been explaining for 1.5 years now. Okay.
So where's the funding going to come from? You said your first class action failed because of lack of funding. So explain the funding mechanism to me, please, Andrew.
Yeah, so the path we've been following is we've been raising what would be called seed funding, I suppose, from family and friends and small and other people, other supporters, ideological or other supporters. We've raised enough money to get advice on prospects from a senior counsel. And the idea is that litigation funding's a well-established business in Australia. There are lots of litigation funding firms, some even listed on the stock exchange, that is their business, and they have billions of dollars to fund litigation that they think is going to be lucrative for them. But they won't do any of the early work. They want it handed to them on a plate with a ribbon from a QC and a book build. And that is what we've been doing, signing up people for the case and getting their claims on board with the case. Because when you sign up for the case, you agree that 30% of your damages, that you get 70% and the investors get 25% and JPB Liberty gets 5%. So by signing people up for the case, we create a book that has value. And we now have, I think, over 700,000.
Oh, it's gone up another 100,000. Yeah,
$700 million US dollars in claim signed up on our book. So
how many plaintiffs is that?
It's over 500.
Wow. And you're thinking it could go up as far as $350 billion.
Yes, because the markets fell, the crypto markets fell by 53% in the week after the Facebook ban. As I said, 30% after Google and 25%, and then quite a lot over the year. The actual drop in the markets, taking into account volume and things like that, the claim is about, and this is a detailed analysis of the claim, it's about $340 billion claim for losses from people in cryptocurrency. Like, because there was a huge amount of trading, people were making these losses. Someone was selling and someone was buying. People were making these losses. And there's some for uncrystallized losses as well for coins that really went down. And then there's all the exchanges. So cryptocurrency exchanges earn a fee on transactions. The transaction, the fee is 1% or 0.8% or something by the value of the transaction, which reflects the price. And then it's about the volume. So price went down 50% or more, volume went down 50% or more. Exchanges revenues dropped by about 75%. And that claims like tens, if not close to $100 billion for the exchanges. And then you have all the crypto projects and businesses who were crushed by this, all the people who were, doing startups, trying to make things happen, who just got crushed. And
that makes sense. I mean, because I was involved with a number of startups myself, and they all faltered when the crypto winter came. But what do you say to the fact that because the market's so volatile and it's gone up again in value, does that erase the losses of the actual trading losses, or how do you factor in that?
Well, you have to look at each coin. Okay, so Bitcoin has recovered pretty much what it was at 30th of January 2018. But most of the others haven't. I mean, Ethereum's still down like 80, 90%. And in particularly the coins that provided platforms for distributed applications for social media, Ethereum, EOS, Steam, etc., those coins were particularly badly affected and suffered losses of 90 to 95%, and most of them are still way down. So it depends on the coin. If you're a Bitcoin hodler and you held it all the way through, we probably in settlement will get you something. We might be able to claim, it's going to depend. But Ethereum, for example, even if you just held it, by the time of settlement, unless something happens, it's not going to be back up at $1,500. So you could either crystallize and claim the loss, or there could be a settlement that recognizes that loss, even though you didn't actually sell it. These things will be worked out either in settlement or damages by the court. But
what about, so I think I can understand, like, that's fairly fixed, your Bitcoin, your price, Ethereum, whatever. There were a number of projects that just crushed and died. So will you be able to put those into the mix as well and say this, they might have had a chance? I mean, we don't know.
All the projects are included in the class that we're claiming for, but obviously in order to claim their actual damages, they're going to need us to give us the information. Particularly they should sign up. If you have a project, they really need to sign up, because then you need to tell us what your losses were, and we need to understand them, and we need to factor them into the litigation. And just today, we added something to the class to cover Grayscale, because we should have known to include Grayscale, Grayscale Bitcoin Investment Trust. It's now the biggest holder of Bitcoin. A lot of people invested in that. We didn't have that in. We had Mt. Gox, people who had Mt. Gox claims, but we didn't have that. So we just added that in. So when people sign up, we get their information, and they might have had some coin that we haven't put every coin in. We can't, but we will put in coins where if people who sign up have substantial losses in them. So yeah, we need that information.
We added in the media as well, because specifically crypto media has got a really strange double or even triple claim to damages, because they were damaged because not only could they not advertise themselves outside of crypto, they often, you run a website and you want to put Google ads on it because that's just the easiest way to monetize your website. But who's the most likely to want to advertise on a crypto website? It's crypto projects. So the bidding, there's no bidding war for keywords in crypto because they've eradicated that market. So your advertising space on your crypto website is worth less. So you're hit as, in the legal jargon, it's being an acquirer and a supplier. You know, they were hit every which way. And if you think about it, and this is something that takes a bit to get your head around, every website, every blogger, every even Facebook page, you are competing with Google. You're a tiny little competitor, but you've got people's attention and you're making money based on their attention. And that's what Google does, and that's what Facebook does. And you're a competitor, even though it's massively, massively unmatched. And so that's why what they did by banning this whole class of industry, it was just monstrously anti-competitive.
Wow. And you're right, because at the time we were all shocked in the industry because it was like, oh, and now Twitter's gone and banned it. And then, of course, when Libra was announced, there was some people who said, oh, isn't it great that we're going to get mass adoption because it's coming to the people? But it's interesting when you put it back. I mean, they were working on Libra, of course. So
2018 January is a crucial month.
Let me tell you.
What happened there?
Okay, let me tell you. In putting together the evidence for this case, there's a woman called Morgan Bella who's Director of Strategic Affairs or something at Calibra. So we found this out by some press. We went on to her LinkedIn page, and we have archived it, haven't we, Brian? We have archived it. So I can say, so what does it say on her LinkedIn page? She started as the head of strategic whatever at Calibra, January 2018. When did they ban the ads? End of January 2018. What did Mark Zuckerberg say in his annual statement on the 4th of January 2018? We're going to get into cryptocurrency. This is all very interesting, and has the power to bring power back to the people, but can't be controlled, as if that's a bad thing. So Facebook was all over crypto, was getting in, establishing an entire new subsidiary and a whole management team to develop Libra at exactly the same time as they banned all the competitors and bracketed the crypto industry with binary options and said it was frequently associated with misleading, deceptive conduct and lots of bad faith. Like, just the most appalling defamation of the industry with no basis whatsoever.
I suppose it's a bit like the Jamie Dimon, oh, it's all scam, scam, scam. And then, oh, JPM coin comes. Where did that come from?
Yes, exactly.
Well, exactly. And the same month, and you can go look at his tweets. Jack Dorsey of Twitter, exactly the same month, January 2018, he's proudly announcing that you can now buy Bitcoin with Cash App. I mean, so they ban, and I mean, there's some other little gems of details. Twitter's ban, which came after Facebook's, that one actually included a carve out that said they weren't going to ban the adverts of publicly listed companies or regulated companies, but there was almost no reasonable regulation of Bitcoin or any of these cryptos back in 2018. So that counted for nothing. But publicly traded Cash is owned by Square, which is publicly traded. And then a few weeks later, Facebook added the same carve out back into their rules.
So they were just making it up as they went along.
Well, I think it's far more nefarious than that. Crypto threatened them. And I think this is something really important to understand. Their business model is they adopt a killer acquisition strategy. This is recognised in the Australian Competition Regulators Report and the European Union. They adopt a killer acquisition strategy. They're on the leading edge of technology. They go and acquire any companies that are promising that could potentially threaten them down the track. And I live in Tel Aviv, okay? Every Israeli starts, buy me Google, buy me Facebook, they engage in a killer acquisition strategy that has turned, why is a search engine control the entire bloody internet? How did that happen? Well, it happened because they were the first to monetize, and they used that money to buy all potential competitors going forward, and they've been doing it for more than a decade. Crypto threatens that. At the time, startups, we're talking tech startups, were raising hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, okay? But in the tech industry, you know, normally you have to start like with seed funding and round A and round Z in VCs, and the management spends three-quarters of their time trying to raise money. And it's a very slow process, and the money's always tight, and, you know, you're always bumping up against costs and stuff like that. You know, obviously you're much slower to develop because of that. And you know, then you're going to get bought by Facebook. So you're never really, or Google, you're never really going to threaten them because you're just going to get bought by them. What ICOs did was gave, you know, tech startups in a really innovative area, you know, huge amounts of money, unheard of amounts of money for tech startups, such that they basically front-ended all the money they would ever need to develop the product, which means they would never need to sell out to Facebook. And if they decentralize the way they should and can on blockchain, they would never even be able to be bought because they'd be decentralized. So decentralized applications, Web 3.0, was and is a strategic threat to Facebook and Google, and to some extent Twitter, because their policy, and it's even in their annual reports, their policy is acquisitions. That's how they maintain their duopoly or their incumbency. So it really threatened it. That's why Mark Zuckerberg suddenly realized that he was behind the 8 ball, that he hadn't got into crypto. And guess what? His arch enemies, the Winklevoss twins, had. And suddenly he needs to get into crypto, but things are moving so fast. You know, we remember what it was like. It was berserk. And, you know, things were moving so fast. Facebook was genuinely concerned, I believe, that, you know, that there might be new competitors that could be a real threat to them, and they needed to slow this down, and they needed to get into it themselves.
Well, it's certainly true in 2017 and 18. It was crazy. It was. Yeah. I mean, and I know people look back on it a lot and they say, oh, it's sort of scams. It wasn't a lot of scams. There's a lot of people raising a lot of money very quickly, and then perhaps imploding, exploding, all the things that happen if you are a geek and you get like 20 million.
Yeah,
you might explode too, but they weren't. The majority of them weren't set up as a scam. They were ideas, and they were innovative, and they were forward thinking. You know, and they weren't set up to scam money, raise money, make money. Yes, nothing wrong with that. So 95%
of all startups fail. That's the same in crypto as anywhere else.
Yeah,
bad business model does not mean you are a scam. And I actually think if you studied crypto, you'd probably find of the ones that did raise, a much higher percentage succeeded, because a lot of the reason you fail is because you don't raise the money. The number one, you know, that imploded, you know, some of them did, but that can happen, and that's normal. They weren't. There are crypto scams, but they're not really crypto scams. They're impersonation scams.
Yeah.
And there's people
the OneCoins of this world, yeah, which is not a crypto at all. Yeah.
That's right. There's a huge amount, and it's increased, of people, scammers pretending to be crypto. And this is the real kicker. That Facebook and Google, in particular YouTube and Google, have allowed people impersonating crypto, impersonating Ripple, impersonating Binance, impersonating things to put scams all over YouTube. So Ripple is suing them, and Steve Wozniak's suing. A lot of people are suing them because they failed to stop the actual scammers, but they've banned the legitimate industry. CZ of Binance tweeted last week or the week before about the fact that these crypto scams using his visage on YouTube, and it's not just uploaded on YouTube, it's gone through the Google Ads process, so the sign-up process that they've allowed them through, using his visage to do some scam. And Binance, one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world, cannot itself advertise on YouTube, on Google. So they have banned the legitimate industry, allowed the scams to run rife, and now they say in their court case to Ripple, they're not responsible for it, and at the same time used it to strategically damage competitors. I mean,
This is getting interesting. Do you know what I love about it? Because I went through that period because I entered crypto in 2017. So I saw the hype and the craziness. I was involved in lots of projects, and then it all crashed and burned. And I stayed in it because I believe in the industry. I believe in blockchain. I believe you were saying earlier about, Brian, that it's not just about the money. No, it's all about the thinking behind those projects. And I love that. I mean, I'm a bit biased here, right? Not impartial journalist. I love the thinking and the ethos that goes behind many of those projects that genuinely want to think, unthink the world, make it a better place, and innovate the hell out of what was there before, and just, disrupt everything. So my last question for you then, gentlemen. Two questions. How long will it take, and will it work?
Okay. The answer to the question is, how long will it take? We might have a mechanism that can allow us to file within the next couple of months without having to raise as much as we thought. If that's the case, we'll probably file within a couple of months. And alternatively, if that doesn't work, we will have to raise probably $10 million or something. But, we will hopefully have the advice and stuff to be able to get that and attract institutional litigation funding. Or perhaps through the media coverage we're getting, perhaps there'll be some big person in crypto who will see the merit of this action and see that, it should be supported financially, and that also it could make them a lot of money. But most importantly, it's bringing back freedom to the internet. And will it work? Look, I've been a lawyer for a long time. I've fought quite a lot of cases. I've fought 2 cases that went to the High Court of Australia and we won. This case is nothing is certain in court, but this case is as close to a bulletproof case as you could possibly imagine. It is an extremely strong case that we can prove with the evidence that's all public from their own documents. And the law is very clear. It's a very, very strong case in my view. It's been run through a lot of lawyers, and no one has found a legal weakness in it. People. So
what's your call out then? So is it for participants and money, or both?
Both.
Plaintiffs.
Both.
Okay, plaintiffs.
Both. It's quite separate. We're not asking for money from participants. Obviously, You might be a participant. Well, the participants don't have to pay anything. It's no win, no fee. Quite separately, if people
There's
want
a pineapple person out there. Remember the pineapple donator? They gave away 80 million. Remember in 2018, the charity, I think we're called Pineapple. They gave away 80 million to charity because they had some extra money. Okay, right. Well, listen, thank you so much, gentlemen. The JPB Liberty firm, it's not a law firm, you're a litigation funding firm.
Yes.
Okay.
Litigation funding.
Thank you so much for your time today. It is fascinating. I, for one, will be watching this case very, very closely. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen.
Thank you, Gillian. Okay, nice to speak to you. Bye.